Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Commerce Marketing Outlook in 2018, the first in our three-part webinar series on the state of retail and the trends to watch. My name is Michelle, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, let's go through a few housekeeping items. First, if you have any questions during the webinar, please insert them into the question box to your right, and we'll be sure to answer them at the end of the presentation. If you'd like to participate in the conversation during the webinar, you can use the hashtag #CommerceConvos and tag @Criteo. Your speaker today is Kathryn Koegel, the Director of Shopper Insights at Criteo. Kathryn has gone through a ton of research around changing shopper habits and the trends in 2018. Before I pass it off to her, let's take a look at what we'll be covering today. Excellent. I can't move it. Kathryn will take us through the 4 C's of retail: connectivity, content, context, and cooperation. To start off, we'll cover how shoppers bought during the holiday season, the most active days, times, and more. From there, Kathryn will break down what we saw at CES 2018, how connectivity and context is going to be fundamental for retail going forward. We'll talk about the changing world of content and, of course, why cooperation is becoming even more important, especially when it comes to data. Finally, we'll discover how all this points to why it's time to drop the E in e-commerce and start thinking about commerce marketing instead. Take us away, Kathryn.
Thank you very much, Michelle. First off, I'd like to say I'm delighted to be doing this presentation. That image of me, I think, I look a little delusionally happy. Well, I am happy because we have such amazing news to report from the retail sector. I think for too long, the press has been enamored of Amazon and everything that they're doing in the market. But I think the biggest story that we really have to talk about today is the global resurgence of retail in new formats related to omni-shopping, which we're going to talk about. But in order to really talk about the future, we need to talk about what happened in Q4, which I am now calling the golden quarter. An interesting thing, if you look at the Criteo data, it showed that back in Halloween, people were searching for Christmas trees more than they were searching for Halloween candy. While that may seem a little odd, if you're sort of a busy working mom, as I am, you know how stressful and how much preparation goes into the holidays with your family. In August, you do things like start looking for Halloween costumes, but by October, people were already shifting into Christmas mode. If you look at the month of November, and I know this is a bit of an eye chart, but stay with me here, you can see some really dramatic patterns that we saw emerge. First off, those really high growth numbers, this is the change in the number of people purchasing that we see in our system. The really high growth numbers early in the season were related to the fact that last year, these numbers were frankly so bad. The election last year put a damp on consumer confidence. Consumer confidence is back. If you look at the time period just before Black Friday, you see that retailers actually triggered a whole lot of sales early, and that had another big leap in purchasing. Thursday the 23rd was Thanksgiving Day. I am happy to report that we now are seeing literally Black Thursday, Thanksgiving, partly because a lot of stores are closing. People want to be with their families. Mobile commerce is enabling people to buy from wherever they are. They're not in front of a desktop. They likely are, after they eat, they're starting to buy again. And if you think about them being on that couch watching TV ads, you see what an incredible context that is for shopping. And then the only decline there you're going to see is that Sunday, because people were literally waiting for Cyber Monday deals. So what happened on Cyber Monday? Indeed, it was the biggest e-commerce day in history. This chart shows us a picture of the shopping pattern as it relates to October. October is what you call a normative month. Other than Halloween, it doesn't have a big retail shopping day in it. So that gives us kind of like, okay, what's a normal shopping period versus what happens in the week of, this is basically Black Friday week into Cyber Monday. Cyber Monday itself was 7.5 times the number of purchasers that we typically see on an average October day. Black Friday was 6.2 times the number of purchasers. But what's important here is those green bars represent people buying. The gray ones are people shopping, people who look or are in the market looking for products. We define that as looking at product detail pages. People had shopped earlier in the month and during this period were wildly converting. Why do we talk about these kinds of things? Marketers need to understand if you're using, and retailers, if you're using retargeting, you need to start early enough to build up the cookie pools so that when this week comes and people are ready to buy, that you're hitting them with exactly the right offer based on everything that they've been doing over the previous few months. This slide, I think, is honestly the most interesting one of the entire season. As I was mentioning before, we've got a difference between, so our orange is our shoppers, our yellow here is our purchasers. This is the entire month of December going across the bottom, with Tuesday, with Monday being Christmas Day and Tuesday the 26th being the day after Christmas. What we see here is that, yes, people had shopped earlier into November. They were converting wildly all the way up to the Wednesday before Christmas, which is a bit of a cutoff in terms of people being able to ship an item and get it to them by that, coming weekend. But what's important here is that Christmas Day is an inflection point. What you see is there's a huge new flood of shoppers in market. Likely a lot of that is due to gift cards. Take someone like me, as I said, busy working mom, etc. Someone like my own mother may not know what to give me. She gives me a gift card. What do? Christmas, I'm done helping my family. I go online and I buy what really I want for myself. So the self-gifting period basically goes on through what we here call Cyber Week 2. One of the biggest challenges we've seen with retailers and brands is that they cut their spend, something like around the 20th, let's say, of December. They really need to extend that spend through the end of the year. We actually saw huge cart sizes, especially in CE, on December 31st. With something like commerce marketing, which is what Criteo offers, we can take that money and ensure that you sell the volume of goods, and it also is responsive to your inventory levels. Another interesting point that emerged that I want to talk about in terms of the time of day. Why does time of day matter? Because very often retailers and brands, they set budgets per day on what they will spend. They need to make sure that they do not, run out of spend and not have marketing coverage. So remember I mentioned we had Black Thursday. This is the hourly breakdown of what happens on Thanksgiving. This pattern is different than a typical day. If you look over look over from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. and that nice spike there, that's couch commerce. People are, watching television, they're relaxing, they're watching football, probably, etc. What are they doing? They are on their phones buying. If you look early in the day, I'm calling that mattress commerce. We see big spikes, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's me. What do you do when you first get up in the morning? You check your phone, and if you're like me, my kids aren't up yet, so I'm going to buy stuff, and then I have to move on to the rest of my day. Here, I think, again, mobile commerce, right after people eat around 3 to 4 p.m., once again, people start going back online. These are all new retail patterns that are emerging. This note, you're probably wondering, why did I put a monkey on your screen? Companies like Hasbro and Mattel had extraordinary seasons. Traditional toys like Legos and Barbies, all of those things are very, very hot. But this little monkey a $15 item from a company called Wowie in Montreal was the global hit toy of the season. When I looked at the Criteo sponsored product data, what sponsored products is it's a network of the world's biggest retailers to sell paid search on retail sites. I saw the term fingerling. That's what this is called in August when I was looking at the data based on keywords people were searching on. I thought fingerling meant a fancy potato. I saw it again, September 1, and I looked and I was like, oh my God. I watched a video of this product and based on the growth in searches, my bet in early September was that this was going to be the global hit toy. And guess what? Criteo data, because we work with so many amazing retailers and have such rich data, was able to predict what would happen later in the season. This toy sold out as of early October. The company, Wowie, was able to manufacture quickly and get more in market, but they also are a really important cautionary tale for why a brand needs to be cautious about Amazon. Amazon, as I'm sure you're well aware, has a very loose reseller policy. Amazon was flooded with fake products. It is extraordinarily difficult as a brand to control that. Wowie Toys had to respond to every email of someone complaining about a product that wasn't theirs. And, and I know this is a year that Nike made a decision to sell through them. You need to be very careful and be ready when you have the kind of PR crisis. This story ended well. Wowie was able to get enough back in market that they remained the hot toy globally in all of the countries where I have data to look at. Other huge products like Instant Pots and LOL Surprise, another hot toy, these things were not built through television or print. They were built through the power of social media and through commerce marketing. Those companies use a company like Criteo so that they are able to put ads that are relevant to the shopper and to the content on all of these retail sites. Now I'll head into what I'm calling the 4 C's of retail. I got a diamond here because you may or may not know, especially if you bought an engagement ring. De Beers came up with this idea that there are 4 C's to buying a diamond: cut, clarity, all this kind of stuff. When I look going forward at retail, I think there are 4 key themes that everything can kind of be bucketed under. And that's the framework for our outlook: connectivity, context, content, and cooperation. First off, connectivity. What do I mean there? Connectivity, the fact that people have smartphones, is driving shopping. Omnishopping, using a variety of devices and channels to make a purchase, is now done by more than 3/4 of people globally. We did a global study, nearly 10,000 shoppers, and I honestly thought these numbers would be in the 50 percentiles. They were more than 75%. This is all due to the takeoff of smartphones. We are always one click away from a purchase on that phone. The next big factor I think that's going on is that younger generations use that phone to control their lives. For those of you who have teenagers that I do, it's hard to even talk to your kid without getting them to put that phone away. They use the phone as the remote control to their lives. That does not mean that mobile commerce is going to kill all of retail. In fact, retail stores from that same study are actually more important to them. And indeed, this is a tactile generation. They've grown up digital, but they like the real world. The other major factor, and this is all coming out of CES, not sure how many of you on the call have been to the Global Consumer Electronics Show. It starts off every year with a bang in Las Vegas. It's one of my favorite things to do after Christmas because I basically go to this show and I feel as if I see the future. The most important statement coming out of this is that IoT, which means the Internet of Things, the concept that the entire world around us, except of course for organic things, can in some way be connected to the internet. This year, Samsung, which is the global leader in consumer electronics, announced at the show that by 2020, 80% of all their devices will be connected to the internet. If you're not aware of the breadth of Samsung, you probably know that the wonderful Galaxy phones, those curved TVs that people love globally. Samsung is the global leader in consumer electronics. I'm a mom. I'm an obsessive person who cooks every night. Samsung is a brand I trust for, the stove, the fridge, all of these things. Samsung is leading the way, and indeed, they are pushing IoT to the extent that I believe they'll drive the whole market forward. Another major factor that we needed to talk about is Google Home and Amazon Echo. I'm not sure how many of you have these in your devices. I was very lucky that Amazon actually asked me. I am both a journalist and a market researcher. They asked me to product test this 3.5 years ago. The Amazon Echo has changed the behavior of my family. It's not just timers, it's not trivia, it's news, it's weather, but the most important thing is that I am now buying products by voice. This season, the Amazon Echo Dot, that $29 small item, was the number one selling product on Amazon globally. Our data, remember, Criteo works with a giant network of retailers globally. Our data, but we don't represent Amazon, I should say that. The Google Home Mini was the breakout CE product. It was $29. Our client Best Buy put those things at every cash register. It was almost like they were asking people to put them in their basket as if it was like gum. And indeed, they used sponsored products to place ads on checkout pages so that people were aware, oh, it's only $29, throw it in. I did end up buying one of these for my 82-year-old mother, and she loves it because she no longer has to ask me what the weather is in New York. She's in California. Anyway, so another important factor about these devices is that it is not just something that Gen Z, which sort of roughly breaks out to our 14 to 17-year-olds from this study done by Accenture last year, or millennials, those 18 to 34-year-olds. Look at the light blue band. What that represents is people that don't yet have the item but are interested. And then you also see, people saying that they've got these and they're using them. When you think about voice assistants, it's not just that Bluetooth speaker, it's your phone. People are using voice on their phones. On my way here at 7 a.m. in the subway this morning, it was so funny. Someone had set a voice reminder that told them that they hadn't gone to church this week. What's important here is that all generations are interested in voice. So what does this mean for marketers? Well, back in March, we did a study with Kantar Millward Brown where we surveyed marketers in the United States who had authority over marketing spend. We asked them, which of the following tech do you expect to be working with? Number one, voice-activated assistants, the voice that is within the device. Number two, the actual device itself. Technologies that we thought would transform the industry, like RFID, have somewhat faded. As I mentioned, these were huge products. The current estimate is that 1/5 of all households now have something like an Echo. We've now reached household penetration that marketers care about it. If you ask Alexa, what's the deal of the day? She'll say, Best Buy recommends. We now have advertising on these. 2 weeks ago, CNBC leaked that both P&G and Clorox are in some kind of discussions to be the default package goods on Alexa, so that when I say, Alexa, buy paper towels, she may start telling me, I recommend Brawny. The other thing people should know is that Google Home, as of August, cut a deal with Walmart. I'm such an enthusiast about voice, and I also have been writing about it for Ad Age, that I have a Google Home on one floor of my house and Alexa on another. And basically, so Walmart cut a deal. When I ask Google Home, hey Google, order paper towels, she will say, Walmart has paper towels on sale for X amount at would you like to buy? All I have to do is say yes. The last thing I will say is that Samsung is absolutely not, in this market. They have the biggest installed base of IoT devices, including appliances, and they announced that they're pumping up their ad division. They so much want to be a media company, and I would expect massive announcements from them in the next year in that direction. AI, machine learning, real-world application. You may start hearing, quite a bit more about this. If machine learning and AI are somewhat new to you, our website has a whole really useful section explaining the basics of what you need to know. The best way to sort of explain this is imagine that every time you give a piece of information to a computer, that computer remembers it, stores it, and begins to give you more accurate results based on the information that you're feeding it. That's what machine learning is. IBM was a hardware company. They are now purely a data company using AI. If you want to understand what they're doing, their website, 14 use cases. But moreover, Criteo's products like dynamic retargeting, kinetic design, and sponsored products, these are producing creative that is relevant and becomes more relevant over time to both what the shopper is searching for, what they have searched for in the past, and then fascinatingly, this example in the front is how we can even produce creative that is pulling in these elements so that the creative itself is dynamic. Major announcement came out last week. Amazon has been testing the cashless store called Go in Seattle. This is a real shot of Seattle people, hipsters, there looking at the products. You walk into the store, you check your cell phone, you don't have to check out again. That is truly frictionless commerce. You are in, you're out. Amazon wants to just increase the amount of things that they can sell. The example above, they're not the only game in town. A number of manufacturers from China are testing this as well. I thought this example from CES was amazing. If you look at the screen in front of you, basically I walked in, it screened me based on a QR code that I had. When you looked at the computer screens, it started recommending products to me based on biometrics of my face. As you can see, I was squinting there trying to take a picture, and it assumed I was angry. But I wasn't. Anyway, amazing things going on with tech in store. Next thing is context. There's a lot of talk on Facebook. What's the word of the year? Last year it might have been complicit was hot. This year, context. Context is everything. The most important trend next to the domestication of IoT coming out of CES was that things like voice AI and technology in general, it's all about the context of how people live. It is not tech for tech's sake. Something like that stove. If I had that stove, I would literally talk on my phone from my office and tell the stove when to turn on, what to do. That stove would feed me recommendations based on what I had based on my nutritional input that I gave it. So, this is crazy new stuff. You should also know that Amazon is breeding Echo devices like rabbits. They have a device for apparel recommendations that is scraping amazing amounts of data so they can expand there. And the bottom right is an example where literally Amazon's going after the telco space with a video conferencing device called a show. The other thing I wanted to really address, and it's been talked about for, VR has been around for 20 years. What that means is virtual reality, using technology to allow you to experience things in 3 dimensions that no one else can experience, just you. The top left is an example from IKEA. IKEA has created the first globally distributed, successful augmented reality. Augmented reality is different from VR. It's a very simple thing. It's use my smartphone or my tablet to basically allow me to customize my experience of a product. What you do with the IKEA AR, and I urge everyone to try this out, is you can go, okay, I want the, Svalbard couch. What does that couch look like in the context of my living room? The example on the bottom left is from CES. Magic mirrors are going to be everywhere. The magic mirror allows you to try on different products from makeup to clothing, this one even reads you back biometrics. The best retail application I saw at CES was Swarovski. They created kind of a stunt here of this blingy Oculus. What that enabled you to do was see their products. They do big crystal, objets d'art, in addition to the sort of crystals you wear. They want you to see those in the context of an actual home so that you might make a purchase. How do you make that purchase? I did this, and I literally made the purchase by nodding and pointing at a certain thing, and then you literally click with your eyes. Connected car. What do cars have to do with commerce? Well, autonomous cars are coming faster than any of us imagine. I walked the show floor with a friend of mine who is a pioneer in market research in Silicon Valley. I was amazed by all this stuff. She said to me, well, I see that in my neighborhood. If you live in certain places in the U.S., autonomous vehicles are being tested everywhere. I haven't seen them in Brooklyn yet, but even at CES, if I opened up a separate Uber app, I could literally voice call Uber and a car without a driver would pick me up. It's all it is such magic. The question is, if you don't have to drive, what are you going to do in that car? In the back seat, you're going to have a big video screen. Your kids will be entertained forever. I love Samsung's example where literally your car is connected to your fridge. You can see inside your fridge. I'm driving to Stop and Shop, and I can literally voice order what I want, and Stop and Shop will, through click and collect, somebody's going to run out to my car, drop it in my car. I am so excited about things like that. Content is changing rapidly. We all know about the extraordinary growth of video. I never thought this, but YouTube, I believe, is a network more powerful than CBS, ABC, Fox, etc. Why is that so? It is a network of anyone under 30. This is how they consume content, this plus Netflix. The majority of people under 30 do not have cable subs. But they're and also all of the social platforms are exploding with video content of people's own. Netflix is a problem. It doesn't have ad breaks. That has actually driven up the cost of TV. When people watch TV, it tends to be in more group settings like the Super Bowl. We know the value of those ads. Those ads have brilliant creative, but they go viral. It all goes through social. Social video has huge issues. This is the year that, things hit the fan in terms of the placement of video. YouTube and Google cannot, through technology, make sure that that Whole Foods ad does not appear opposite some kind of content. The reason that GM pulled all their money from YouTube was because their clients were finding videos, their cars placed on ISIS videos. Fortunately, Google and YouTube hired thousands of people to get at this, but it's a big challenge. The other major issue, as I mentioned, brand safety, fraud, all those kinds of things. Social, the other biggest network of the world is Facebook. We're now in the midst of it's not a culture war, it's a what are we going to do with this? Something like Facebook had an impact on politics in not just the United States. It's something that advertisers are concerned about. But the person who controls this is Mark Zuckerberg. He is someone who is used to being the hero. He is suddenly under extraordinary scrutiny. He keeps reiterating that he is not a media company, that they're a technology company. He's not responsible. Well, guess what? Last week, he announced that there's a change. They are stepping in. Some of this is very complicated. I won't go into this. But basically, overnight, the feed changed. They're limiting the amount of advertising, which I think is absolutely a good thing. Cooperation. Cooperation is the essence of what a company like Criteo is all about. Before I get into what we do, I'll mention some of the big things. Things are, in retail, it's moving so fast that if a retailer can't build it on their own, they're buying that capability. Amazon wants what the mass of retailers in the U.S. want, a distributed footprint for selling and fulfilling goods. They did that by buying Whole Foods in July for $13.7 billion. That is now 12% of the grocery market in the United States. I can tell you that CPG marketers are terrified because guess what? The first day that deal closed, Amazon changed the pricing structure. Amazon is in a position, they're the frenemy. Amazon made a deal with Kohl's so that they can do returns. It's great for Kohl's because it gets more people in store. But, we really need to talk about Walmart. They, I think, and Best Buy are the biggest success stories of Q4. Walmart's, you can now, things that you buy online at Walmart, you can return in Lord & Taylor. Once again, it gets people in the store. They made that deal for fulfilling Google Home. Walmart bought Jet.com. Jet.com is relatively tiny, but it has a big footprint in the major markets. Walmart is a C&D County, more rural phenomenon. Jet.com has pioneered fulfillment in urban areas. Walmart took a look at this and said, why build it? Let's buy Jet. And that is really improving everything going on with Walmart and their ability to distribute e-commerce. Walmart also wants into the higher end apparel space. They pretty much control probably the lower tier of price-wise of apparel. Just like Amazon, they want more. They bought ModCloth, Bonobos, and Shoes.com, and are actually all of these three players they're opening up real-life stores so that they can get that whole omni-shopping thing going. In the UK, Sainsbury's and Argos merged to become an even bigger player for online groceries. And then Alibaba, which if you're not that familiar with it, it's basically, it is Amazon of China. They bought the biggest grocery retailer there. So where does Criteo fit into this whole picture? You may or may not be familiar with the term walled gardens. Walled gardens is what you refer to as a company that has vast amounts of data but does not share that data. IBM is not a walled garden. They are building their business on the use of shared data. What is a walled garden? Amazon, Facebook, Google. Every transaction that a brand does through, any of these companies, all of that shopper activity that these organizations have, they're not playing well in the sandbox. They're not sharing that data. They're not in the business of helping other retailers and brands succeed. That's exactly what Criteo does. We did a study with Forbes of 500 marketers globally to find out about how they were thinking about walled gardens and pooled data assets, et cetera. Basically, we were interested to see that 3/5 of those who participated in this study said they really were a part of a data collaborative already, and that they're pooling, this is very important, non-PII, not personally identifiable data, to better connect with shoppers. But they believe there's huge potential in this. 72% of them said that they believed data collaboration would lead to increased revenue, 65% increased profits, and 56% increased customer satisfaction. Why customer? We're in an era where people want everything personalized. Marketing is becoming more personalized through data. The last quick session before we get into questions is what I've believed, since I worked for a company called HookLogic that Criteo bought. Basically, we have to stop talking about e-commerce. Everything that goes on, because we can constantly shop through our phones, it's just commerce. The thing that Criteo wants to do this year is to get everyone on board with that idea. There's no war between e-commerce and stores. One is not killing the other. It's all about harnessing that omni-shopping behavior, thus drop the E. What is commerce marketing? In an earlier era, you might have called it, trade marketing through stores. Commerce marketing connects shoppers with things they need and love, and however and wherever they research, evaluate, and buy those things. I like the word need versus love. Need is what I do when I order that toilet paper on, Amazon or on my Google Home. I don't need to really ever think about what brand because I'm a brawny, select-a-size person. Love is what marketing does. Love is the creation of desire. It's awareness. How am I sending out a message and a brand promise that makes me want to buy that product? And indeed, that's what we can help brands and marketers do. We, this past year, introduced what we're calling the commerce marketing ecosystem. This is essentially what Criteo has been in the business of doing. We work with over 10,000 websites. We have 2 billion, customer IDs and growing. Global coverage. I came into this company having a background in working for DoubleClick, which indeed invented a lot of technology around ad tech, including ad serving and retargeting. Criteo is a company who got global first and has extraordinary depth of content with various retailers. We are creating a level playing field where we can help all brands and retailers succeed. We're helping create a world of fair market competition where, the story isn't Amazon, huge stock price, don't need to be profitable. We're helping people succeed. These are just sort of, a quick look at some of the different products that we have. You may be most familiar with retargeting. This is basically using shopper data that we have gathered from, 17,000 retailers globally, to basically offer those people relevant ads and offers based on their history. Sponsored products is paid search on a global network of the world's biggest retail sites like Walmart, Target, Tesco, Asda, Auchan, etc. We have new products that are helping in the acquisition area. So how am I getting new people to try my products, getting to the love stage? And the last thing is audience match, which is helping marketers get to the point of not marketing to the device or channel, but actually marketing to the shopper. So I have to take a very, very big breath right now. So what do brands and retailers need to do now? Number one, it's a golden quarter. I know people need to, the planning for right now starts for holiday 2018. Realize that e-commerce fundamentally changes retail seasonality. Save enough budget, start early to build up the retargeting pool. Save enough budget so you can carry through Cyber Week 2. As I mentioned from CES, the internet is not what you think it is. In a very short time, we may not even have laptops. We may be just talking to everything around us. Autonomous cars are not tomorrow, they are here now. And literally by 2020, it all changes. If you don't grasp what this stuff is now, by an Echo Dot or one of those Google Home Minis, put it in your house, and start seeing how it changes your behavior. Very important thing. You have to take advantage of omnishopping techniques. As I mentioned, we're not talking about a fight between commerce, retail stores and e-commerce. We're talking about how do you use each channel to support the other. Showrooming. I saw it in a store, but I bought it online. Just make sure if I go into Williams-Sonoma, I buy that product from Williams-Sonoma online, not go to one of their competitors. Web rooming is what we've always done. I saw it online and I bought it in a store. Click and collect, huge growth there. The other major thing, and Criteo can help companies do this, you have to deliver a seamless experience across devices and channels. I'm an Uber shopper as a mom of, children who works full time. I need to know that when I start a purchase on Walmart.com on this laptop that I'm talking to now, that if I finish that purchase on my phone, that cart will stay persistent between there. There's been big leaps and bounds forward with responsive design and websites, but still I found I turned away from a couple of retailers because they hadn't optimized that experience across mobile phones. If you look at our data from the US and other markets, which I'm going to tell you where you can find that, you will see that we had some days this holiday where even in the US, over half of all conversions were done on the phone. The next point on that is that you need to address the shopper as one person. You have to be working with the most sophisticated device graph, because if you're hitting them with different offers based on, I am the same person, regardless of whether I'm shopping on my phone or this laptop. The last thing is that if we all want to thrive and survive in a world where companies like Facebook, Amazon, and Google, which control nearly 70% of the entire advertising market, if we all want to survive and thrive, which we believe in free markets, retailers and brands need to pool their data assets to remain competitive. Criteo is a company that is building the commerce marketing ecosystem and tools so that you can do that. So I've done a lot of very fast New York talking. I did want to let you know that the content that I've talked about here is pulled from a number of resources. If you're not up on the whole AI and machine learning thing, we have a whole resource center there under the Insights tab of our website. Omnishopping on a global basis, or at least 6 countries. Understand that behavior. We have 6 countries of data called the Shopper Story. Every quarter, we have a global commerce review, which there's an interactive map on the site. It can help you understand the levels of what is the relative percentage of deals that are being made on the mobile phone versus a laptop, versus a tablet. Trade marketing, huge. Up to half of CPG budgets are actually conducted, in store. What happens to that money when more sales in this category go online? That actually, I think, is our most downloaded report, because packaged goods know it's a whole new ball game with Amazon in that market. If you want to understand voice, I wrote a report this past year for Ad Age, and it's a subscriber report that you can actually access there. Most important thing, Criteo.com, amazing resource in the Insights tab for all this kind of information. Something you're looking for, I'm very happy to answer any questions. Here's my email address. Follow me on Twitter. I often issue things about what's going on in the market, including updates from CES, all that kind of thing. So I am going to take a drink of my tea, and Michelle is going to turn us to questions.
Thanks, Kathryn. That was great. We're a bit over time, but we do have a couple of questions for you. Here's one. What do you think brands need to prepare themselves with as they approach online sales?
God, there's so many important questions. Number one, do you want to sell yourself through Amazon? If you do, you need to be very careful about that reseller policy. I've talked to packaged goods who were furious that, their own reseller policies have been violated. People are selling their goods for not what they should be. Some of those goods may be old. Some of those goods may be fake. That's a huge issue. We counsel brands to think about optimizing their digital shelf. How do you decide things like product placement? Sponsored products are sort of the rough equivalent of like end aisle display in a grocery store. Like, how are you going to decide which product you want to move now? The whole world of performance marketing is so much more about what happens in a minute. It can be responsive to inventory levels. The first thing is like educate yourself. The issue of IoT and voice. It is hard for people that have never experienced that, what it's like. We all have to kind of leap into this and understand the changing dynamics, and then think about how we can sort of adapt that to the business reality of our products.
That makes sense.
I know that's a lot. There's so much.
There is. Super helpful. Here's one. Do you see consumers willing to purchase higher ticket items, even considering the shift to mobile?
Wow. Well, that Swarovski example from CES, I have some screen grabs that I'll probably use in a further report or something. Swarovski wanted to do VR. VR right now is pretty much first-person shooter games and like nature documentaries that tend to make me a little nauseous because there's like wild horses running by my head. That experience put me in this gorgeous house. Swarovski makes high-end crystal. I had no idea. I was able to literally, with those goggles, navigate through that house and see those objects in the context of the room. They believe people are going to start buying things like that. And, think about decorators and things like that are paid to do these kinds of things. I think that that's an absolutely real-world application. I think more retailers need to really grasp what is going on with AR and VR. The NRF Big Show was just last week in New York. I was kind of conferenced out after CES, but that was amazing. IBM had a whole sector of innovation in retail where I think half of the vendors were doing interesting things in AR and VR. We are just now getting to the point where people figure out really smart things that show products in the context of people's lives.
And actually, just to be conscious of everyone's time, we'll wrap it up with one final question. Kathryn, what are the top 3 things that you think a retailer needs to do to compete with giants like Alibaba and Amazon?
Well, if I haven't struck this one before, participating in, data cooperatives. Criteo is the biggest and the amazing alternative to what's going on with Amazon. We work with 17,000 retailers. We work with the top brands through sponsored products. We are able to improve everyone's ability to compete through those kinds of data cooperatives. That's number 1. Number 2, get excited about technology and the future. Try a new thing that you have never tried. The third thing is that I think all of us, we've used this hashtag Vibrant Retail around here. It's a story that I literally woke myself up to through my teenagers. I hadn't done a lot of in-store shopping. I'm really busy. I'm a total e-commerce person. I started going out in every city that I'm in when I travel. I did it all over, Italy this summer. I've done it in the UK. In a ton of different cities in the U.S., there is an amazing story of retail coming back in a different way. I was in Southern California, where I'm from, last September. The Nordstrom got smaller and even more service-oriented. But part of that mall had become an experience center. The movie theater had babysitting in it, and movies, you got a cocktail delivered. I want to leave my home to go to a movie theater where I can drop my kid off and, indeed relax and see a movie. Retail is changing so rapidly and for the better. I want everyone to, the next time you hear something, another store closed, think about the stores that are opening. They're never going to be as big. Big box stores are going to get smaller. Our population is getting more urban. Go into one of the new stores. Go into a revamped store from a retailer you haven't been in a while. Saks is a great example. Hudson Bay bought them. They are turning one whole floor of that New York City store, which used to be the primo luxury experience in retail in the U.S., that whole floor is going to be about customer service. I'm going to go there to get a facial. I'm going to go there to have an experience, to get out of my house. And indeed, I will buy more products because I had a wonderful experience. So my last point is just everyone go out there and shop. I'm doing it. I'm having a great time doing it. And, as I said, it is such an exciting time in retail.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathryn, and thanks to everyone for attending. Be sure to look out for the next webinar in this series, Mobile Commerce and Omnichannel Sales in 2018. Have a great afternoon.